friends. Welcome to Jenny's Sewing Room. It's been a long time. Today, we're going to do an update on the Sewing Scout Patches video. Why, you might ask? Oh, because I've been sewing scout patches for a little while longer now, and I have a few more tips and techniques. First of all, please reference my first sewing scout patches video, especially for sewing those really heavy and hard to sew patches. But today I'm going to focus on the patches that have a thin border on them that are not stitched, because let's make it easier for ourselves, okay? In today's video, we're going to sew knots onto my husband's beautiful shirt. Unfortunately, we have some patches that are in the way, so we're going to need to remove the World Scout crest and the jamboree ring and move them up to then sew on these recently earned knots. He has taped them into the order he would like them on his shirt. Using your trusty seam ripper on the back side so as not to damage your patches, gently remove your patch. After you've started on the back, you can gently slide your seam ripper on the front side, making sure that you don't tear your shirt or your patch. I am glad that when I machine sewed this patch onto the shirt, I used a dark bobbin thread. It never showed on the front, and it makes it a lot easier for me to find the stitches I want to tear out. Bless my stitching heart, I set my sewing machine stitches pretty small for this one. Maybe not quite so small next time. Maybe I didn't do myself any favors when I sewed this on with a zigzag stitch and clear thread on the front, because now it's a little harder to get off. Nice matching thread, Jenny. Good job. This looks so good and may never come off. It turns out this was the barcode tag from when we bought the World Crest. Let's take off those paper tags before we sew them on, because it turns out they're an absolute pain to get off once the shirt's been washed a couple of times. I got the patch off, but there's still a little bit of sticky goo left over from the barcode that was on this shirt. But I think that we're going to be able to have room to not get that all the way off if we need to. So first I'm going to check the placement of all of the patches. Next, I'm going to put the World Scout crest and the jamboree patch on to make sure that I have room. I think that I still have room here and have room for the knots on his shirt. And you can't see the mess from the barcode before. Now I'm pretty sure he's going to want to keep this jamboree ring around his World Scout crest, so I'm going to zigzag these two together using clear thread, and that way I only have to do one set of stitches around the outside. My machine is threaded, and I'm going to take some masking tape and just temporarily tape the World Scout crest into the jamboree ring. So I'm going to tear off a piece. I'm just going to tape it across on the front, and that should hold temporarily. I'm going to set my machine to a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to make sure that it catches both the edge of the crest and the center of the ring. If your tape is too long and catches on your machine, you're going to be sad. So peel that edge up and tear it off so it just goes over the ring. Friends, this clear filament thread is kind of a pain because it's very fine and it's hard to see. But look how good this looks. I don't have to redo this anymore, and I can just sew it on one time around the edge of the patch. So I think we're going to go with this. This is one of the highly sought after microfiber shirts, and it's my husband's favorite. So I'm going to add his knots right here to the ones he already has. He has his Arrow of Light, his Eagle Knot, and the WD Boyce Award for new unit founders. Now I'm going to add some more knots for his Cub Scout leading and also the District Award of Merit. I've gone ahead and taped these knots into place with masking tape. I'm not going to stitch over the tape, but I'm going to let the tape hold them in place while I sew them on. After trying the filament one time, I began to question my life choices and rethreaded my machine with a nice navy blue thread on top for sewing this Cub Scout leader patch. There is not a lot of reason to put myself through that darn filament. Yes, I'm much happier sewing this with standard thread. Maybe save the filament for those really hard to match items or when you're sewing across two different colored patches. I've now changed to a color that matches the edge of the next knot, and I'm going to start next to the final knot so that I don't have to clip and rethread until I'm finished with it. I know I said before to sew these by hand, and I like the way that looks better, but I've changed my mind since then. There's no need to be a hero, and this actually works just fine once you've practiced a little bit and get used to holding your patches in place with a way that works best for you. I'm trying this masking tape out, and it seems to work pretty well. So here we go. Of course, I need to get all of this done right now because my son's Eagle Court of Honor is this weekend, and I have nothing better to do than sewing patches onto uniforms. Well, I have a lot to do, but I think my husband would like his uniform to look the best for his son's Court of Honor. I did do a single back stitch on the middle patch before I moved onto the furthest right patch so that if we do decide to change these up, I don't have to reinforce that first stitch. Oh, and it's also the furthest left patch, but I don't know my right from my left anyway. Do a single back stitch as you're starting that last patch so that everything is firmly in place. Uh-oh, I didn't check to see if there's paper on the back, but I'm taking the paper off this one. I really don't want to have paper stuck to his shirt. A note on which way the knot goes. I usually check the barcode to see which way to place my knot. A lot of times the label on the back is the correct placement for the patch, but today I've noticed that this one is upside down. Check. Go online and see which way it goes, because this one goes in this direction. With the adhesive removed, I'm now ready to place this knot. I've noticed that some people will use a spray adhesive or something to help them stick this on to place it, and that's okay. Just know that it might leave some residue on your shirt. The District Award of Merit patch is now taped in place, and I've replaced my natural colored thread with a navy blue for sewing around the outside. I'm starting on the short side so I can secure this end and a little bit of the top before I take off the masking tape. With the knots in place, we want to position the World Scouting crest and the Jamboree ring centered above his knots. Make sure they're not covered by the collar or too far into the shoulder. I've changed my thread back to a matching color to do the World Scouting crest and Jamboree ring that I sewed together earlier. I left myself a good space where I can get started before I hit the first piece of masking tape. And off we go. Anchor it down, and then I'm using large stitches because even these will hold just fine. It's not as though there's pressure on them like it's a seam. Well, the patches are sewn on and they look great. Oh, by the way, friends, back when I first made my Jenny's Sewing Room video of sewing on scalp patches, I was doing it for my kids. I was sewing patches on my kids' uniform and my husband's uniform. But since then, I've gotten to sew them on my own uniform. I'm the scoutmaster of a troop that started 2 years ago, and I am happy to get to sew patches on my own uniform after all this time. So thanks for watching. Thanks for enjoying your scalp patch tutorials, and maybe I'll do more things in Jenny's Sewing Room with scouting.